Poople's cat. I want to talk about risk and threat assessment, because that is the antidote to the outpouring of fear porn that is what we now call YouTube prepping. So let's have a look at what risk and threat analysis should look like for you as a prepper. So risk in this context means anything that disturbs the status quo. As Dad on YouTube famously said, there's no such thing as an SHTF until it's personal, then it becomes an SHTF. So most of us online are not suffering SHTFs, and what we're preparing for, generally speaking, are SHTFs that are attractive in a Hollywood sense if you're making a film, but aren't very realistic in terms of what SHTF actually affect us. So none of us have any idea what SHTF will be in terms of a global thing. We have some ideas, we have some biases, but we have no idea. If you look at this, this is a management response steps. So what we're doing is, the phase we're in is preparedness and prevention. We're preparing for an incident and trying to prevent it. Most preppers aren't trying to prevent anything at all. In fact, they are, in a lot of cases, helping to prepare for it to occur. So when an incident occurs, using our skills and our prepper stuff, we will have an emergency response, and that will be a period of minutes to hours to days to weeks and even months, depending on the nature of it is. And then there's a continuity response. The continuity response is everything you do to try and get stuff back to normal, to keep business normal going or restart business normal. And after then there's the recovery phase, where hopefully at the end of that you and your society have recovered from the event and are now better and stronger. Now I'm just going to look at how you actually do the planning and how you actually implement everything after the event very quickly, because it's pretty complicated. And don't worry, this is the last black and white slide. You're your own emergency management team. You may have friends, you may have neighbours, you may have a mag group, you may have your wife, you may have your children, you may have a neighbour. Whatever it is, there's a team of people that you can rely on, absolutely rely on, to deal with it. If you can, you'll subdivide into these 4 areas straight off. Incident response teams, tactical to deal with the actual event at the time, that's digging through homes, rubble, etc. An overall site manager for the incident who coordinates what the tactical team's doing and gets some resources. Somebody's in charge of communications, both internal and external. Recovery teams that right from the beginning, as far as they can, start to think about getting back to normal, i.e. saving seeds from a garden that's been destroyed, stuff like that. And staff that would then undertake the recovery tasks. That would be building ditches, building new homes, repairing homes, stuff like this. Now this has got university helpline, because obviously a lot of this stuff is borrowed, right? So what this would be in your event would be, how would you do your politics of your group, how would you communicate within the group, how would you get decision making done. I'm a very, very big fan of teamwork with multiple feedback loops and all the rest of it, but clear decision making on critical issues. As hopefully you all guys know by now, that's the way I would do it. But there's a major problem with this. If you decide to figure out how to respond to an incident that has not occurred and cannot be known when it would occur or what it would occur, where are you going to find your sources of truth? Now, on the internet, the bigger channels tend to talk about things a lot that they have no idea about. Things they have no training in, no education in, and are basically ripping off other people's sources of knowledge, and usually in incoherent ways. Now I'm not picking on these people for any particular reason, other than the fact I think they have repeatedly shown signs of making wild statements and giving information that is dangerous on healthcare and other preps. Really, if you're not educated, go and get some education and then start interpreting it for the masses on YouTube, because people take these people and see it with credibility. Now of course I don't exclude myself nor Brad from this, from Full Spectrum Survival. We both do on occasion talk about doomsday. We do on occasion talk about things that really we're probably not that educated to talk about, but I think the major difference between the two of us and the ones you've just looked at is we actually take what we're doing seriously and do an awful lot of studying before we actually open our mouths, generally speaking, and make things and tell people how to get over addictions without any formal training in addictions, or tell people how to act in the military circumstances and pretend to be military when we have no military background whatsoever. Now obviously I probably touched a nerve here, and for that I do apologise. Well, I don't apologise at all. People are pushing utter nonsense online year after year in the name of prepping, and it's very addictive and people click on it. And the bottom line here is you need to have credible sources of information to make decent preparedness planning to deal with any potential incident that you want to deal with. And I'm not targeting the people I've shown other than myself. What I'm trying to do is raise people's consciousness. How susceptible are you to watching utter bilge, garbage, conspiracy nonsense online? It has nothing to do with prepping. Filling your head full of errant nonsense about chemtrails and ice ages and cities burning because they're going to stop food stamps and hordes of whatever coming into your country, or the socialists coming and destroying your house. It's bilge, it's nonsense. Jade Helm was nonsense. Nobody who made videos about Jade Helm have yet, to my knowledge, come online and apologise for spewing nonsense. So consider this carefully. Where are you getting knowledge about how to prepare for threats? Who's giving you that knowledge, and how credible are they? And that's a personal decision. But don't be fooled by gimmicky clickbaits, dudes online with good haircuts, nice computer equipment, and certainty. SHTF is uncertain. Anybody tells you differently is lying to you right off the get-go. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out at this point was that I have 3 degrees, including an advanced one, in science. But I was going to show you them, but I'm not. I'm going to show you my old puppy, Sydney the dog. And that's me, many, many years ago. And the reason for this is because it's my birthday on the 12th, so have a drink for me on the 12th. But this raises an interesting point. I do often talk about stuff that I don't have any formal background or training in, but I bring to it a scientific awareness and an ability to read scientific research that has been trained at the master's level, successfully, strangely enough. And it helps me interpret data. And what I'm seeing over and over and over and over and over and over again from many, many big channels, not all of them that I've shown, and a lot more besides, and certainly from a lot of small channels, is an absolute inability to be able to understand or interpret scientific data in any meaningful way. Of all the channels I've shown, the only 2 I watch regularly are my own and Brad, Full Spectrum Survival. There's parts of Brad's Full Spectrum Survival videos at times that I don't like or I take issue with, certainly when it strays into political areas. And I'm sure he has the same thing if he ever watches any of mine, which occasionally he does, which is nice. Because the bottom line here is that you won't get anybody out there online that you 100% agree with. If you find yourself watching a host, a channel, and writing comments, I 100% agree with you, you said it 100% correctly, wow, you're so right, you've turned off your critical engagement facility. You're acting like a dumb piece of wood. Nobody has 100% agreement with you on everything. Nobody has 100% information that's accurate or 100% ability to actually transmit the information to you in a meaningful way. What you are often doing is you are being lulled by music, clickbait, videos and film and pictures and code phrases over and over again to actually stop thinking about what the actual risks are and what it actually means to you. So this is going to be a 2-parter. This part is actually telling you to verify and get decent information online. The other part is going to tell you how to actually assess the risks and take proper, rational approaches to how you prep. But there's a bridge in between of all of this. It's the fact that we're not actually prepping for what SHTFs are very, very likely to happen to us. And at this point, I'm going to hand this over to a couple of really great channels, Mike Helton and Dad on YouTube. Mike Helton I actually stopped subscribing to a little while ago because he got very political and in ways that I felt transgressed what I felt was okay in terms of racism. Looking back on it, I guess Mike was going through his own SHTF at the time, and when we are hurting, when we are emotionally disturbed, we often will target others in ways that really we can't defend. other than by anger or screaming were correct. Mike, of course, is a good guy, and that's not the way he is. So listen to Mike and think about what's the most likely SHTF that could happen to you.
Me and the boys are doing good. We went out on our own into May. I'm working full time, 6 days a week, and you know, a lot of people have asked how I'm doing and everything. You know, I just went through my own mini SHTF situation, and you know, I thought I was prepared for anything, but when something happens, let it be a separation like this, let it be a blackout, a job loss, you know, something, you're going to have to deal with a lot of emotions, a lot of stress, heartbreak, and you can't really prepare yourself for it. I don't care the hardcore prepper, survivalist, you know, you just can't prepare for it because it hits you so many ways. You just got to suck it up and carry on. You know, a lot of people go get medication for it, but I'm not that type.
Many, many years ago, I knew my marriage was going to fail, and I was told to prepare for it from a friend. And he told me to put cash in a locker at work, and I did. And it was a great prep. But Mike's right. The emotional destruction at the failure of a romantic or even a non-romantic sexual relationship is catastrophic in the short term. For some people, as Mike pointed out, it can be catastrophic in the long term. Mental illness can happen, suicide can happen. And I think it's important for us to realize that whilst we're prepping, we're living in 2019, we have friends and we have family. If you have no friends and you have no family, you're already in SHTF, and the major thing you need to do is get them. Now, the only time in my life I ever contemplated suicide was when I broke up from Kitty. That was about a decade ago. I would not consider myself to be emotionally weak. I seriously considered killing myself. The pain was utterly overwhelming and made worse by my 100% culpability in that situation. I just want to finish this off with Dad from YouTube talking about a death in his family a year after it happened. These are the things that we need to prep for, in addition to EMPs, water main interruptions, pandemics. The reality is car accidents, personal illness, personal death, job losses are much more frequent than an asteroid hitting. So stop making all your preps for asteroids hitting or alien space zombies, and once you've watched part 2, sit down and write down what the actual threats really are to you and your family. Who you are and where you live is critical to that, and how realistic those threats are, and what sources of information from all different spectrums politically could you get to actually give yourself the knowledge to prepare to deal with that threat if it happens. Okay? A lot of people are spending their time and knowledge getting preps to deal with after it happens. They're missing the key point here. You got to be emotionally, physically and spiritually and mentally ready for the incident. And preparedness and using risk and threat analysis is a great way to do that.
So it's been about a year, a little more, since my niece has passed. And we went around the block now. We've celebrated her first birthday, not with us. And first Christmas and Easter and yada yada. And the school year has come and gone, and all that jazz. And it's weird. Okay, it still feels funny. School's about to come up, and I'm not looking to buy her a backpack or shoes or get her list printed off and purchased of school supplies. It's kind of a bummer, to be honest. It really sucks.
Sorry for your loss, Dad on YouTube, and I'm sorry for your pain and suffering, Mike, Helton. Both good channels, you should subs to them. you should sub to Full Spectrum Survival as well. If you want to sub to the other channels, by all means do so. I personally have long ago decided that they have nothing to offer me. That's my choice. They're not what I need to get the information I need to prep for the things I'm prepping for. Because I've actually sat down with paper quite a few times and figured it out. I figured out what the threats are, what the actual risks are, and what I probably should do to avoid or mitigate or deal with each of those threats. And that's what part 2 is going to be, a risk analysis. It's basic. A few people have done it online. I thought it was Modern Refugee, and he did a triangle with bug out, but I'm not sure. It might have been Insight Freedom. I do apologise. But this one's a little bit more basic and a little bit more accurate to what we need to do. Rather than give you trigger warnings about when to bug out or what to focus on, what this is going to do is to tell you that some things you are prepping for right now probably you shouldn't be bothered prepping for, and other things you absolutely should be prepping for that you're not. After all, how many people out there have life insurance? How many people out there have life insurance on their spouse? Have you any idea how much childcare costs if your spouse dies? Not a pleasant thought, nor is prepping in general a pleasant thought. So remember, in SHTF, tomorrow will always be worse than today, unless you prep. And you need to prep right, not by prepping using fear porn, slick dudes and dudettes who are only really interested in prepping is to get you to send them money via Patreon and click on their affiliate links. Toodles!